Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Birds on a Blue Note. Got my fellow captain RJ here, and we are hopping on this bandwagon and doing some midseason grades for our Cardinals. And
Ugh.
not really much else to do during the All-Star break. Games aren't going, not really much movement with the trade deadline, so we're gonna go around the horn here. Pretty much covering the starters, bench players, um, and of course the rotation and pen. So kicking it off, we're at the catcher spot with our starting catcher, Mr. Wilson Contreras. And as far as everything goes, coming off of a big signing last year and some struggles. I honestly have him at an A minus for the year. Um, I mean, obviously he had everything happen with that, forearm comes back quicker than expected, and immediately starts contributing again to the team. He's got that 917 OPS. I believe he's leading the team with that. And yeah, I mean, I just love his passion when he's on that roster. But I got him as an A minus so far on the year. How about you?
Um, so yeah, big Willie, right? He's been everything we'd hope he'd be and more. I do want to prelude also that I'm kind of going forward, so people aren't like, "Oh, I can't believe you gave this person a B when they suck." I'm going to be grading people relative to expectations, if that makes sense for you guys. I'm sure it does. You're probably a lot smarter than me anyway. But yeah, I'd give Wilson Contreras like if I were to do it, I would say S tier, but I know you don't do the S tier, so I'll give him an A plus. As you mentioned, he's leading the team in OPS. He's leading the team in on base percentage. He's got an on base north of 400. He's got a slug north of 500. He's substantially gotten better at his pitch framing and his ability to call a game. Just in the 2 years he's been here, you can tell he's worked really hard at it. But yeah, on the season, he's got 10 plus home runs. I mean, like I said, he's done everything you would hope he would do and then more. Especially considering he was out for about a month and he came back faster than he was supposed to just because he really wanted to get back in there and play. I mean, he's a great team leader. He's a great locker room guy. 158 OPS plus. If he qualified, which he doesn't because he missed that month, he'd be the top hitting catcher in baseball right now. So like you can't really like the way I see it, you can't really give him anything but an A plus. The injury sucks. Obviously, he was standing too close. He got hit in the forearm, broke his forearm or fractured. But he came back pretty fast too. You can tell he's a dog. He works hard. He plays with fire, like you mentioned. He wants to win. So for me, A plus.
Yeah, I mean,
Best.
really, there aren't many knocks on him this year. Obviously, like the reason why it goes down a bit is that, big chunk of missed time, not able to really contribute during that time. And, but he did come back pretty quickly. So, still gets an
Sooner than
A in my
expected.
book.
Yeah, I'm not going to hold that against him either. And I'm kind of like going to give him extra brownie points for like working hard to get back sooner than he should have. And he came right back and he started mashing again. Like he's just look at the last handful of games he's made differences and he's had like two game winning home runs already in the past like 3 weeks since he's been playing again. So it's dude's a baller.
Yeah, he is. And I'm glad we signed him. He is a fun guy to watch out there.
Oh,
Final
also
thoughts?
for all those people, really quickly, I'm sorry. A lot of people are like, "Oh, why didn't we trade for Sean Murphy?" So we're gonna throw that graphic up here right now, and the games played since Sean Murphy has been traded, and since we signed Wilson Contreras, and Contreras has been better in essentially everything. So I don't hear that anymore. That case closed. He's the better catcher of the two.
Yeah.
I'm
Um,
done. Go ahead.
no, no, those were the final thoughts on Willie. So let's move over to first base then, where we have Mr. Paul Goldschmidt. And boy, has it been a rough year to say the least for Goldie. Some of his career worst numbers from batting average to slugging. I mean, he's just struggling to get everything going. Thankfully, his glove has still been working at first, but I mean, all in all, for where he should be in that, I have him as a C minus on the year compared to expectations. I couldn't go any lower, man. Like I can't give Goldie a D. Like thankfully, like I am confident that he's still gonna contribute like he has been. I mean, you can't overlook the fact that he still has 13 home runs on the season and whatnot. So like he still does have that power, and a little more recently he's been playing a bit better, but yeah, been a rough year for him. Obviously, Father Time maybe finally taking over on this guy.
You're a bit too kind to Goldie, in my opinion. This is why I preluded with relative to expectations. This was a guy that's supposed to be middle of the order, like driving in runs, right? And being a consistent threat in the middle of the order and helping us win games. I'll just, this is the split that I think matters the most since he's consistently hit in the middle of the order, and Ollie will not move him any further down than fourth in the lineup. With runners in scoring position, he's got a OPS plus of 35. And just to let you guys know, 100 is league average. So he's 65% worse than the league average player when it matters most. Hitting 172 in those spots. It's it's not good enough. You cannot continue to hit in the middle of the line. We're more than halfway through the season. And like you said, it's been a rough season for him. And his defense has been fine. He's a first baseman. He makes all the plays and scoops. But when you're hitting that bad in the middle of the lineup with the runners on, I can't give him anything but a D. I won't give him an F because he does have a decent handful of home runs and some RBIs, I guess. But that's just too bad. He can't. I mean, on the season, like aside from that, his OPS plus is 87. So he's still a below league average hitter anyway. But like with the runners on and what matters most, he's not coming through. And we talked about this a little bit before. He's the worst hitter in baseball on fastballs down the middle. Doesn't really make sense because if you look at his savant, his bat speed is actually like a little above league average. So it makes you think maybe he's not picking up the pitches or maybe his eyesight's going. We don't know. It doesn't make sense, but he's been awful when it matters most. So I can't give him anything higher than a D.
Like spot in the lineup isn't his fault though. If Ollie's gonna keep
Oh,
putting
no,
it
no,
away,
that's not his
like,
fault.
but overall he's been a positive WAR player, so I can't give him a D rating. I can give him a C minus. I can't give him a D because he hasn't been that much of a failure on the year where he's truly, truly hurt us compared to like what we would get as a replacement ultimately in the league.
This is where
And
we're going to disagree, though.
hey, that's
Because
fine.
that's relative to expectations. Like, I didn't expect him to be MVP level Goldie like he was a couple years ago, or even really all-star. But an above league average hitter is what I expected from him. And for him to be so much worse than that, especially with guys, ducks on the pond, to be practically worthless it's not a good look. So that's my rating. So
I mean, it is what it is. Like his numbers were down last year. This has been a trend and whatnot. But still, I can't go
so
that
expect
far.
Mo to sign him to an extension, right? So
Yeah,
we're gonna give him the ball.
exactly. All right, so moving on to our second baseman, we have Nolan Gorman. What grade do you have for Gorman?
See, I have Gorman to see. Here's the thing about Gorman, and we talked about him. I'm a big fan of his. There will be stretches where he's just absolutely unstoppable. Like he had that 2, 3 week stretch last month where he carried the team on his back essentially. But then aside from that, it seems like he strikes out 2 times a game. So I got him right in the middle only because he still leads or is tied, I guess now, Burley kind of had that hot stretch near the end, but he's tied for the team lead in home runs. He's got a decent amount of RBI still. The thing that bothers me, obviously, is the strikeouts. He's leading the league in strikeouts. Had 129 strikeouts already. He's on pace for over 200 on the season. He's barely above the Mendoza line, and his OPS plus is still only 93, so he doesn't technically qualify as a league average hitter. You just kind of, with Gorman, you got to like take the highs with the lows, and that's just kind of who he is now. You hopefully he can fix the lows and kind of like stay closer to the median there. Like I'd rather have like average to average instead of like the super high highs and the super low lows. But there's not many second basemen that can like that has 30 plus home run potential. So that kind of keeps him from going down further than the C. I know you're a little bit higher on him, so I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I have him as a B on here. I mean, we know what we're getting. Like you said before, I mean, if you're going off of the expectations of Gorman and like what we're expecting from him, we know he's a power hitter. He's the style of Andrew Jones. He's either hitting the ball out of the park usually or he's striking out. It's one of those things. He's not gonna hit over 250 on the year ever. And the thing is he plays above average defense ultimately. I mean, just look at that play that him and Mason turned in the last week. I mean, that one that Mason made that beautiful dive and stop with the flip of the glove. Gorman makes that real quick turn. If he doesn't have that ability to get that ball out of his glove quickly, that isn't a double play. And it kills that great play by Mason. So, he's no slouch over at second. And, again, the guy is tied for the team lead in home runs, second in RBIs, like at second, a position that you're traditionally not getting those type of offensive numbers from. That's not something that you can just replace there. So, I mean, hopefully, obviously, as we all know, we got JJ in the draft. So hopefully he'll slot as our future second baseman with Mason at short, move Gorman over to third. But we'll talk more about that another time. But I mean, at least for right now, while he's our second baseman, I mean, he's been doing a lot better than I think most people thought he would, especially after his freshman year and whatnot, you know?
Yeah, here's the thing with Gorman. I'm not even really upset with him. Like some people are just super mad, like, oh my gosh, he strikes out too much and he's just awful. Like him and maybe two other second basemen in all of baseball have the potential he has. My issue is why I'm not giving him B or better is that like he's I don't want to say he's regressed, but he kind of is not having as good a year as he had last year. I mean, his batting average, I know batting average. His batting average is 30 points lower than it was last season. His slug is 60 points lower. His on base is 50 points lower. So you would have liked to see about those same numbers, if not a little bit better, just because he's got more experience. He's a little bit older. He's playing more. But I mean, like at the same time, his home run pace is higher than it was last season too. And like home runs aren't end all be all. But with the way this offense was playing for most of the season, you needed someone with power to drive runs, and he's got almost 50 RBI too. So like he's driving runs in. So I mean, I can't complain too much. I just kind of want him to like year by year as he gets older, just get a little bit better, not a little bit worse. You kind of hope like he hits another one of these hot streaks in the second half and those numbers go up closer to what
Well,
his career average is.
and that's the thing you got to remember. Like the numbers that you're seeing from last year include the entire year. We all know that he fucking sucks in June. It is a trend of his where he just does not do well in June. So when you're looking at the numbers now on mid-season, obviously there's only so many months that we've had so far. So those June numbers exacerbate a lot of those things like the batting average, the on base percentage. If he has his traditional second half of the month, all of those numbers go up, like you were saying. Um,
Yeah,
but
no, for sure. Yeah, he
I
can
mean,
get to where he was last season too. I'm just kind of grading it based on where he's at right now.
But I mean,
Um, yeah.
he's paced to be a 30-90 second baseman, man. That does not, like you said, that does not grow on trees there. Again, the strikeouts are concerning. He's pacing for over 200 strikeouts on the year, or even
Uh,
last year with a well, I mean, so here's the here's the caveat with that. Last year, he only played 120 games and he had 148 strikeouts. He's at 90 games with 129 right now. So pacing wise, he's really not too far off from his number, but he's looking at playing a full season this year. He's been healthy, which
Yeah,
is great.
I I
Um,
don't care about the average as much as other people do. I just want the slug to be a little bit higher and the on base to be a little bit higher. Take your walks too. Show a little more patience. I
yeah.
mean, he did that last year, and like that's a big reason why a lot of us like ourselves are super high on him going into this season because he
Well,
showed more patience. He know he can do it. So
um, I I I hate to tell you, but the numbers show that he's been more patient this year too. He's actually pacing for on the season he's already at 30 walks, whereas last year he had 53, so he's pacing to set a career high for walks too. So he is having better eyesight. It's just he's chasing a lot more. He's not getting as many of his traditional hits and whatnot. Like last year he had a lot more doubles and a lot more just regular hits coming through. So uh would just like to see him sacrifice some of that power some of the time and just take the ball the other way on those ones that are outside, because
or
he's
take
still
the
trying
walk.
to drive that.
Yeah, just a little bit higher on base, a little higher slug because his slug is lower too. So like obviously he can have like a 2 week stretch like he's had before, and all those numbers go right back up. So just based on relative to like where he's at right now this season, for me to see just because the strikeouts and the slugging and the on base are all lower than what they were last season. So hopefully, like you said, I mean, 30 home run, 90 RBI second baseman definitely don't grow on trees. And if he were to hit 30 home runs like every season of his career for like 15 years, he'd be the all-time leader at second base, which is insane to say. You don't want to project that far out, but that's how rare it is too. So like there's definitely the high upside with him. I'm not giving up on him yet. I think C is fair. I think B is fair on your end too, just because of the potential. So hopefully he has a big second half, right?
Yep. Let's see. So moving on, because we just took up a lot of time with Gorman, rightfully so. Moving on to our boy over at short, we have Mr. Mason Wynn, who seems to be winning all year. He's one of my A's. I mean, I don't think there's going to be much argument here that he has done everything everybody's wanted to ask him for. The only reason I don't have him on it as an A plus right now is because he needs to learn when to hold the ball and not throw it away. That's it. It's really my only knock on him this year has been, he knows he can zip it, and sometimes you just gotta eat it instead on those super close ones.
I mean, I'll give him an A as well. The only reason I wouldn't give him an A plus is because he in June and July, and since he's taken leadoff, which I'm still for, by the way, his OPS at leadoff is 78, where when he was batting eighth, it was 225, and where he was batting ninth, it was 125. So I'd like to just kind of see him adjust a little bit better at batting first. But like one of the big things for him that we talked about this year is how good he is hitting with an 0-2 count or with two strikes just in general. 0-2 count. So this is a split OPS, so it's relative to the rest of baseball. 308 OPS plus with an 0-2 count. That's ridiculous. 1-2 count, 304, 2-2 count, 106. I mean, that's the second best in baseball, like hitting with two strikes. And for someone as young as he is, and like he had his cup of tea last season and he struggled quite mightily to have the whole offseason and kind of change your approach and fix that and come in next year and be phenomenal with two strikes. And that's why he's batting leadoff, I think, is because his two strike approach is fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like you'd like to see him hit a little bit better the leadoff spot, but that's like the only like minor knock on him for me because his defense is phenomenal. I mean, obviously we talked about how good he is a hitter. He's like what is he like a 114 OPS on the season or something like that? But like I think he should have been an all-star. Is what it is. Can't complain. I mean, this is cornerstone player we're gonna have here for a long time.
Yeah,
And he plays with some flair too, which he's fun to watch too. So
that he is. I mean, he's definitely making it a little easier to breathe about having a core for the future. That's for sure. As are a few other guys that we're gonna get to on this list. Any final thoughts on Win? I mean, not much to talk
nope,
about
let's just
him.
lock him up. I'm
Yep.
not one for early extensions. I think this is the perfect player to extend early, get it done, buy out those pre-arb years. Don't have to worry about in the future. He can kind of breathe a sigh of relief. The team can breathe a sigh of relief. This is a cornerstone like player you build around. So do it, right? So
Mm,
that's it.
I still wait another year. Have him replicate this in a sophomore season and then reward him. We don't need to get stuck with another. I'm not saying he's going to be this, but we don't need to get stuck with another DeYoung or Matt Carpenter where they have a flash of brilliance, the league adjusts, and then they have issues moving
Completely
forward.
different types of players, though, to me.
They
Like
are,
Mason's
but
got all the
again, we don't have a crystal ball. There's no reason to jump the gun on it when he's got this many years of control. You can wait one more year without upsetting him at all. Even Atlanta has given a lot of their guys 2 years before giving them those extensions and whatnot. So I just don't see the point in jumping the gun after one season. That's all. That's not smart business. But moving on to third base, another guy who's been a bit of a disappointment this year, but seems to be trending up. So not sure if it was early season injury or what's going on, but Mr. Nolan Arenado over at third base. Um, I actually have him as a C on the year, mostly because of his more recent performances and whatnot. Just taking a look at his like last 30 games, he's got 316 average. He's hit 11 runs batted in, slugging, and obviously on base percentage. Leave a little bit to be desired and whatnot, as he's just over 750 on his OPS. But I mean, definitely trending upward. So you gotta hope it was just an injury early on in the season. Still hasn't done well enough to get higher from me, but uh, I mean, he's doing enough to contribute recently and help us win a few games. So, yeah.
Hey, we agree. I actually have him as C as well. And the main
Woo!
reason I have that also is because since July started, really, end of June, we'll go end of June, July, he's been much better, right? So, like, uh, I mean, look, his July 13 games, batting 320, 370 on base, 400 slug, OPS plus of 112. And he's been much better. And his June, the second half of this June was better. His OPS plus in June was still just slightly under 100, but it's been better. The defense has been up and down. It's been kind of strange this year. He started off really well, and then he had like a month and a half where he wasn't good, and now he's kind of playing good defense again. So you do wonder if there was like an injury and it just wasn't really talked about, or he tried to belt through it. Don't need to dive too much into that. We talked about that before.
I mean, he's a
Um,
consummate professional. Probably, tweak something or that and was just pushing through because let's be honest, our replacement option at third is Brendan Crawford. And
or Brendan Donovan if you wanted to play him there, I guess, and put someone else in the outfield. But yeah, either way, you're going to play somebody who's not that great a hitter if you Arenado's out. And if he
yeah,
was he hit on the wrist, the hand, the elbow? So many people have been hurt this year. I mixed them up, but I think maybe that was like causing a swing to not be as good.
could
Also,
have
because
been
I
anything.
a lot
Like
of options swing and it didn't seem like he was following all the way through. It was a little weird.
sometimes even when you're just warming up with swings, anybody who's played, sometimes you take a weird swing and just something like tightens up and it takes a few weeks. And especially if you're playing game after game, travel after travel, like it takes a little longer for that stuff to, die down a bit. And again, these are pros. So if you even have the slightest bit of weakness, the top guys can take advantage of that time after time. But yeah, I mean, what else you got on Nato? Anything?
I mean, obviously the big worry with him is the power numbers, right? He's got 8 home runs on the season. This is a guy that we're used to seeing hit 30 plus on the year. He's on pace to hit less than 20.
Yeah.
Um, because he's a dead pull hitter and he was having a hard time pulling the ball. So it's been better lately. Like we said, the power hasn't quite picked up yet, but he's been hitting better. So you hopefully this is a trend in the right direction for the second half and his power numbers take off. Just like Goldie, also though he has struggled to hit with runners in scoring position. That's another thing that's been better lately. That's the reason I have him at C and Gold AD is because Nato's at least trending in the right direction. He's starting to hit the ball more consistently, more hard, and he's playing good defense again. So obviously you want more from him, but like I said, he's playing better. So knock on wood, he carries us into the second half. Cardinals take off. We have our middle order playing better again. Would be a big boost to this team because we got into this point to this wild card number 2, relatively speaking, without our big bats playing well all year. So just get one of them going, be in much better position.
Yeah, that would be nice. Let's hope. But I mean, the nice thing is, like you said, at least he's getting the hitting going. Slugging is still concerning, but thankfully other guys are picking up the slack with the slugging and driving runs in. Ultimately, I'm still more of a small ball fan, so as long as we're getting guys in and getting hits with guys on base, I'll be happy. They don't need to be home runs to make me, you know, enjoy a baseball game. I am just fine watching a score 5 runs on singles and doubles as I am scoring, 10 runs
Yeah, I'd
on
be
home
fine with that
runs.
too. It's the 70 OPS plus with runners in scoring position that's on the season to this point. That's been like a concern, like
Oh
him
yeah.
and Goldie both, and we talked a lot. So not as trending in the right direction though. So hopefully this continues second half. Hopefully this All-Star break kind of gave him a little bit of time to heal up or mentally reset or whatever it was he needed to do to get going again. Because we know how good this guy can be when he's on. He can carry a team by himself. So
Yeah.
hopefully we get that in the second half.
Amen to that. All right, perfect. So let's move on to our outfield then. So obviously Siani is kind of taken over in center, but for the purposes of the grading, we're gonna have him technically as our bench guy. So apologies, everybody. We're gonna get to him a little bit later. So, gonna start off in center with Newt, and obviously he missed, quite a bit of the season with injuries so far. Came back. He has been a bit helpful, but right now, just because of what I was expecting to get from him so far on this year, I mean, I have him as a C plus ultimately.
I mean, I have him as a C only because, like you said, I hate to like knock Newt while at the same time saying, "Oh, Wilson is different." Newt's kind of got this saying going now where it's a consistent like getting hit by the injury bug, almost like Tyler O'Neill type. And I know people don't like to hear that, but at the same time, when he came back that first time and we had the, like 2 3 week torrid stretch, he was a big part of that. He's
Hmm.
got like all the underlying metrics you want from like a really good hitter. He hits the ball hard. He's got a quick swing. He plays good defense. He's got a good arm. He's got elite. He's got an elite eye at the plate. He takes his walks. Uh, so I mean, when he plays, right? When he plays, he's good. You just hope that he can stay consistent and not get hurt, right? Like, and when he does come back, it usually takes him like a week and a half, 2 weeks to get back into the rhythm because he'll struggle at the gates. It's the same thing that happened last time. He came
Yeah.
back, he struggled for about a week and a half, 2, and then he was on fire for like a 2 3 week stretch, and then he got hurt again. And he came back and he struggled a little bit out the gate, and he needs to find his timing again. And him and like a couple other players, I think like Aaron Judge get hosed so much by the home plate ump because they know the strike zone better than the umpire. But yeah, he's really good when he's there, but he's been gone so much. Got to give him a C.
Yeah. I mean, and ultimately a lot of his numbers are down from his normal. Everything from his slugging to his on-base percentage, his batting average is at lows. He's just pretty much been an average hitter so far, but like you said, a lot of that has to do with the injury for him and taking a little more time to come back. But yeah, I couldn't give him any higher. So we're both pretty much on same page there with him being in that C range ultimately. So let's move on to one of the heroes of the season, Mr. Alec Burleson. Burley, Burley Bomber.
He's a believer,
The Believers.
the believers. I
I'm
was always a
obvious A
believer.
plus for me. I know you believe in the S rank, so you've got him S for
I
this, right?
have him. I have him and one other player S who will be named later. But yes, I have him S.
I wonder who
Again,
that.
yeah. When we're talking relative to expectations, how many people on their bingo card would have said Alec Burleson and the year 2024 and the year of our Lord 2024 will be the best hitter on the Cardinals? Not me. I believed in him too. I was like, he's going to
Yeah,
be a good player. And I didn't think he was going to be the best hitter on our team. So, I mean, credit to him, right?
yeah, he's doing everything. And even in the outfield too, man. Like it's a little clunky in the outfield. He's getting the
He's
job done.
watch. He's got a little of that
Um,
man ran in him out there. It's an adventure every time.
team leader in home runs, team leader in RBIs. Like you got to feel good for him, especially for those of us who have been defending him because of his BABIP numbers and whatnot. Like it's just good to see him having success. He definitely deserves it. He's worked hard, and this is one of those stories of like not giving up in the face of adversity. And how cruel the baseball gods can be at first. And it's just like they tempt you to quit. And it's like, do you keep going? Do you find a way? But I mean, he could easily like with how this is coming on now, he now um fits in to be our future first baseman, obviously. Like I know you might be thinking to lock him up again. I say give him one more year, but this is definitely
I would
another.
not lock up Burley yet, just because of the tools are not like they are with Win, but keep going.
Yeah, I would give him if he can replicate this next year, he'll be 26. So I say sign him through like 30, 32 and whatnot. Um, but yeah, I mean, just really good and I'm sure you'll cover some of these numbers more in depth, but like you just look at everything here from his batting ISOs, his BABIP, like beautiful numbers. The funny thing is like his BABIP pretty much actually matches his average this year. Like
Yeah, when the baseball gods are fair, he turns out to be a pretty good player, huh?
his BABIP is 288, his average is 288. Literally, if he's hitting the ball, he's getting it to be a hit if it should be a hit this year. Bless that man. Ver- Versus 2022, where he was 211 for his BABIP, but 188, like 30 points, man. That's the
Yeah,
gods
he
hating
had
you.
he had a tough go of it last season for sure, which is part of why I was like, no, I promise he's going to be good because this is a former top 100 prospect too. A lot of people forget like he was very highly rated before he made the majors. So like this is a guy we expected to hit because that was why he made it. Obviously, he's not a good defender. He doesn't have speed, so he could hit. And that's what he's done. And he hits in almost every situation. He hits as a first baseman, hits as a left fielder, he hits with runners on, he hits with runners off. I mean, he's got a positive OPS plus every month of the season, and he's getting better like as the season goes. Like his last 7 days, 232 OPS plus. But yeah, like we're saying, like Burley's been like the main carry. Him and Mason Wynn have been like the main carriers of this offense. Where Arnado and Goldie let us down. This is like you mentioned earlier. This is where different people, like Burleson, for instance, who I have an S. Again, I can enunciate. I put him in S tier. Yeah, I get mad about it. Have really carried this offense. I mean, like we, you can't expect anything more from him, especially after last season. Everyone was down on him. A lot of people were talking about trading him for like a reliever or packaging him as a part for another starter. But I mean, without Burleson this year, this team would be drowning. I think that's 100% fair to say. Without him,
So,
we're toast. So, and the only thing he doesn't do is doesn't hit against left-handed pitchers, at least not yet. So hopefully he figures that out. Um, he's like we talked about, he's got the elite bat to ball skills. He hardly ever swings and misses. So that's something you could definitely see him improving on, especially how consistently hits the ball hard. Maybe just a little bit better look against lefties. But yeah, I mean, he's been the man, and I don't expect him to really slow down this year just based on his hit tool. Knock on wood. I'm knocking on wood, so if he slumps a little bit, it's not my fault. But he's been incredible, and I mean, that's the bottom line. It's S.
alrighty then. So, last but not least, on the starters in the outfield, we have Mr. Brendan Donovan. Um, quietly going along this year, man. Like you don't hear his name brought up too much by much of the media. It's funny. But he's putting together a pretty decent season overall and still being used as that utility guy. Ultimately, I have him as a B plus on the season.
I mean, yeah, that's fair to me. B plus, A minus, kind of in that area. Again, it's to me relative to I keep saying it relative to expectations. But at the half, he's got almost 100 hits, 8 home runs. He's batting over 270. He's got 45 RBI, which is the big one. So again, with Goldie and Arnado struggling to drive runs in, he's been one of the key guys to do it.
Yeah.
114 OPS plus. He's got it on base north of 340. We knew he's got the walk rate. Like he's great at getting on base and driving in runs. He hits at home. He hits on the road. He hits versus right-handers. He's league average against left-handers again, which is why we talked about we need another right-handed bat. We'll get to that when we do our trade talk in a different video. But aside from a slow April, he's got a positive OPS plus in every other month this season. Um, he's a super key contributor. Like when we win games, you always see him be a part of that. He's always one of the reasons. So B plus, A minus, somewhere around there. I
The
agree.
thing that's really stood out to me this year with him, I mean, you hit on most of the numbers, so thanks for taking all those, RJ. But no,
There's
you
more, I
are a data
promise.
analyst after all. But I mean, the thing that's really stood out to me this year is about a quarter of all of his hits have been extra base hits. He's got 22 doubles and a lone triple, and whatnot. Plus, he's also got his 8 home runs on the season. So out of those, just short of 100 hits, we're looking at 30 of those being for extra bases. So I mean, that's actually, like I said, just short of a third actually. So it isn't that he's just getting on base, but he's putting himself in position to score runs, if not scoring runs himself. And that has been really critical on this team, which again is why it's so funny that he's not getting more attention. He's just quietly doing his job this year. Um,
Yeah,
you
he
know,
had
I,
that one weird, awful at bat against the Astros where everyone blew up and you're like, what the heck are you doing? But aside from really that one at bat, I can't think most of the time he puts together a good professional at bat, similar to Carpenter in his prime. And we always talk about how good of an at bat it was, even when he got out. He made the pitcher work, he took good cuts. That's kind of what Brendan Donovan's done this year. He's been like that prime Matt, not obviously not quite as good, but the doubles, that's what he was known for, right? So like getting on base, hitting doubles, driving in runs. He's got almost 50 ribbies. He's on pace for about 80 RBI, hitting consistently like fifth, sixth, seventh in the lineup. It's incredible. Um,
he's also
and he
taken a
hits with
few beaners. He's got 10 beaners he's taken, so he's
and
taken
he
some
hits with an
bruises for
OT
the
count
team
too.
to get
Like when
on.
Yeah, we talked about Wynn, his approach with an 0-2 count. So the relative OPS to the rest of the league, OPS plus, I guess, for Brendan Donovan, it's 228 in an 0-2 count. So when he's down in the count, he still takes good at bats and he still gets hits. It's
Some
him,
guys
Burley,
just
and
have a
Wynn.
great
Like,
approach and know how to, take what the pitcher gives you and shorten your swing.
yep,
But yeah, good note to wrap up on the starters with Donnie. So let's move on over to our bench and let's go ahead and let's start with Siani, who has been quite serviceable out there in center. What do you have him at on the year?
B. And it's not because he hits, but it's because he plays gold glove defense out there. Um, and again, this is supposed to be a fourth, fifth outfielder, and he's gotten the majority of the playing time because he's been so good. He's near the top of outs above average. He's near the top at DRS out in center field. Um, he's saving games with this defense out there. This isn't someone I expected to hit, but like if you're going to come in and you're going to play and you're going to save games with your defense, I'm going to give you a B because I didn't expect anything from you. This is kind of like what LaRusse used to say about Yachty back in the day before Yachty learned how to hit. He's like, he could hit 200 for all I care. His defense is so good, it doesn't matter. That's kind of where Siani is right now in center field. So,
I have him over at B minus, so pretty much same thing for those reasons. I mean, also his speed on the bases too has been quite helpful, not just in the outfield. The thing that I like about Siani, it's his jumps. He gets good reads off the bat. And for anybody that's been in the outfield, like you'll know that that first read is the most critical. You're always taught to take the first step back, but like real good outfielders are able to read the angle of the bat, where the pitch is going, and they're able to get that jump and know where the ball is going to be before it even technically comes off the bat. And he seems to have that skill. Like you see few of the stat casts that they've done of him, and the jump that he gets on there, he's already moving as the swing is happening. So, kid has real solid defense. Obviously, you would like to see more with the bat, but uh, I mean, again, for the position that he was in, as you mentioned before, you can't hold that against the guy coming up doing what he's doing ultimately on this team.
yeah, I
So,
mean, ask the Yankees how important it is to have good outfield defense. I don't know if you saw that game with Verdugo having one of the worst jumps of all time on a 90% catch probability. It cost him the game. So Siani's been the polar opposite, saving games. Sorry, Yankees fans. I doubt any of you watch this anyway, but he's pretty pitiful out there. So you need it. You need yourself a Siani type out there.
oh
Save you
yeah.
some games.
All right, moving on. Let's go with um Mr. Dylan Carlson here.
I'll let you start.
I mean, shoot, did I not even rank Carlson? It's been that bad of a year. I didn't even rank
It's
Carlson.
it's been rough.
I mean, I see him as one of our guys that's gone at this deadline packaged in part of a deal. Ultimately been, you know, shit season for him. I'm gonna give him a D on the year.
Are we doing Fs or is D the lowest?
We are doing Fs, but I was more reserving that to people that, I mean, I guess he could be.
He's got negative WAR on the season. He was supposed to be our starting center fielder. He is supposed to be one of the key cogs in our outfield for the future. This is year 5 now. Yep, year 5, and he's a negative WAR player. He's got a 53 OPS plus. His
Yeah.
defense isn't good. His base running isn't good. He makes soft contact. When he makes contact at all, can't hit left-handed, can't hit right-handed. He doesn't provide, aside from that one incredible throw, he's got a great throwing arm. I'll give him that. We've highlighted that before. But again, expectations, right? Like this is a guy that Mo didn't want to trade. From my cold dead hands is what he said about Carlson just a couple of years ago. It stinks, right? He's lost pretty much all value, and you hope he can get something like maybe someone sees something in him still, thinking, oh, the Cardinals just ruined him. There's something there, and they'll give us something in return. I can't even see that he'd have to be packaged with something.
Yeah, probably.
Um, it stinks. It really stinks because you hope I don't want players to be bad. I'm not hating on Carlson because I dislike him as a person or as a player. He's just been bad. It's just what it is. You know, like when you're a negative defender and you're a negative hitter and you're a negative base runner, and this is a guy that was supposed to be a core part of your team for the future. It's just disappointing. I guess is the best word for it. So F.
No, fair. Enough said. Let's move on to another guy that I know you were real happy that we brought on this year, Mr. Matt Carpenter. You hated his
Uh,
contract and everything about it. So I'll let you start off. How has he been this year for league minimum?
I mean, he's still got -4. He's gotten a couple key hits and key spots that helped us secure a couple wins. So I'm not too mad about it, I guess. Burleson gives him a lot of credit too for helping them hit better this year. So he'll get extra brownie points for me there because I am a believer. Um, he doesn't play that much. He's got 101 at bats on the season, 89 OPS plus. He does have a couple bombs. I didn't expect any, especially playing at Bush. I'll give him a C. I think that's fair. He provides that veteran leadership on the bench. I know the blah 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 veteran leadership. I have more issue with Crawford than I have with Carpenter these days. Um, but yeah, I'll give him a C.
So I actually have Carp at a B because he is not just at league minimum, even less than that. If we wanted to drop him at any time, we can, and we don't owe the rest of his contract because Atlanta covers all of it this year for any games that he isn't on there. But like you said, I mean, Burley's credited him with a lot of the help on there, and that's why he was brought on was to be one of those leaders in the clubhouse. So, I mean, having that direct connection with Burley having one of his best years and Carp coming in and him crediting with that, like that's huge for me. And again, he's on league minimum as a depth player, so even a couple home runs has made it more than worthwhile. And yes, he is technically a -4 player this year, but it's -0.1. So, we're
I might give him a little bump. I would give him a little bit more of a bump if he had a little bit more versatility, I guess. But he's like DH first base only now. So I don't know. That just doesn't provide like remove the name and remove the Burleson thing that was talked about, which might be true. Don't really actually really know for sure, but that's what he says. But remove that and like he's practically not even a major league player anymore.
I
Um,
mean, if the player
but I
says
like
it, you
him.
gotta trust him. If Burley's saying that he's crediting it with him, this isn't like conjecture or that. It's coming from Burley has no reason to go and be like, oh yeah, by the way, this random guy, Matt Carpenter, has helped me. Like, no reason to do that. He's on a league minimum contract. It's not like they're gonna drop him because Burley said like something or anything like that. But
He does
um
still walk though. He's got a 319 on base this year, which is higher than Tommy Edmonds' career average. Oh no. So um yeah, I mean he's fine. He's fine for what he is. I'm not upset with him. I'll give him a C. If you would have asked me at the beginning of the season where I'd rank him just blindly, I would have given him a D or an F. So this is a notch in the right direction for me on Carpenter.
um And I've had many issues with Carpenter, but for what he's on this year, no big deal. Moving on to the other guy that you weren't happy with, Mr. Crawford. I'm just gonna nip this in the butt with mine. I have him as D, and that's probably being a little bit generous. But yeah.
Funny story. He's got one home run on the season. And one home run on the season. I said if Crawford hits a home run off Aaron Nola, I'll do the Packy one chip challenge on stream. That's his one on the season.
I told you you have to keep
So
doing
for
the
that,
bet, and he'll keep doing it.
he'll,
You're just
he'll
being
hit
too
80
much
home
of a
runs this
pussy.
year. What are the odds, right? But it's 62 at bats, and that's the one. Are you kidding me? Um, but yeah, another negative one player. He's not a good defender. Everyone gets all up in arms when he plays shortstop, kind of justifiably, but not so. I know Mason Wynn needs his days off too, but it seems like he still plays there more often than he should. Um, yeah, you can't really use the veteran leadership thing either because like Carpenter's the veteran leadership. You can't. I don't. It doesn't make sense to have two kind of old washed players on your bench, especially like and games that are tight going down to the very nitty gritty at the end, and you need a bench bat, and two of your options are old guys that can't hit. It stinks. And no one said, "Hey, Brandon Crawford really changed my career trajectory," like someone said about Matt Carpenter. So, yeah, I mean, I won't give him an F. I'll give him the D because he does play shortstop and he helps win on the days off, which is more valuable than Carlson, who is not really good out there. So,
All right then. So, I believe last but not least, we have our technically third catcher. We'll get to Herrera as part of the injured list minor league guys, but Mr. Pajes there. I actually have him as a B minus. I mean, being called up as the third catcher, he has provided a lot of relief. Um, I mean, everybody was running on Herrera. I don't want to get on that too much now because I'll chat about that when it's his turn. But I mean, he's been coming up doing his thing and even contributing a little bit at the plate as well, so is what it is.
I mean, yeah, this is gonna sound weird, but I would give him a B also. Because if I'm gonna be fair to my own scoring system, relative to expectations, again, and Pedro Paz, he doesn't hit, even though he has had some key hits and key home runs, and specifically against the Cubs. That Father's Day one was pretty cool. Um, but he calls a good game back there, right? And he's helped control the running game better than Herrera has. Because they were just running all over him. Unfortunate. You look at the underlying stats, and Herrera's arm actually isn't that bad. He just got a really slow release. So hopefully he can figure that out. But yeah, like it seems like pitchers are really comfortable with him. He calls a good game. He does a decent job of like controlling the run game. And as a third catcher, who's now our second catcher, that's all you can really ask, right? And if you provide a little bit of offense from time to time, especially like a couple of the games where he had the key hit that won us the game, he's got like two or three game-winning RBIs in the season where he was the difference between a win and a loss. So I'll give him a B.
Beautiful. Wonderful. All right. So that wraps up the starters and the bench for now. So let's move over to the rotation arms and kind of knock this out in order, starting off with Sunny, Sunny, Sunny Boy Gray, our big addition in the off season, and he has been huge, really helpful, but um ultimately has struggled a bit to get through some games with his innings and whatnot. So ultimately, I actually have him as a B plus on the season, just because of where I expected him to be and where he's been able to go. Like a lot of times, I felt like he should have been able to stick around longer in games. And yeah, we need our ace to be going and taking up a lot of these innings. And right now he's um third behind Gibby and Miles. Even Miles is ahead of him. But yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up as well, right? Like we spent all off season talking about innings and innings and innings, and that's why we signed Lance Lynn, and that's why we signed Kyle Gibson and Sonny Gray. And I wasn't a fan of all of them. I look I don't want to say I look dumb, but uh, I was wrong. I can say when I'm wrong. They have provided a ton of value, but again, yeah, he's struggled more lately. His ERA is almost at a 3.5 now. It's 3.34. It has been under three most of the season. But that being said, he's still been our best pitcher. So I mean, I'll give him a B. You would like hope that maybe that's just fatigue nearing the half midway point, and second half they're gonna like really gear up and he'll be better. He hasn't been bad by any means. Don't get me wrong. Like he was pretty dominant, like most of the season. It's just been like the last handful of starts where he struggled. So that's the only reason I'm giving him a B. But at the same time,
Mhm.
it's the innings. He's third. He's the third starter, third in innings as a starter on our team, which really like if you're going to be the ace and going to be like labeled as the ace, you kind of have to have that bulldog mentality too. You rip the ball from my dead hand type, and he doesn't seem to have that. And I don't know if that's by his choice or Ollie's choice or or management wanting to limit his innings in the first half of the season. It's wait and see. But when he's on, I mean, dominant. He's got one of the best sweeper sliders, whatever you want to call it, in baseball. Heavy swing and miss. I expect him to have a big second half and help carry this pitching rotation. B is only because of the last few starts, really. So we're in sync.
Perfect. Moving over to Miles. Um, been a roller coaster of a year for him. He even had a bit of a dominant stretch, like during the month of June, partially through July, where he was on. But I mean, the rest of the year, it's just been god awful. His ERA's over 5 right now. So ultimately, I actually have him as a C because he is technically billed as our number two, and we are, other than the innings, we're really not getting um that type of production from him at all. So he either needs to be swapped out or, you know, something needs to get going because he's getting shelled in the games where he's off.
Oh yeah, he gives up bombs. Lots of them too. They come in bunches. He has had this weird season, right? He started off awful, and we were ripping him to shreds on here. I like, oh, Miles Michaelis, our number two. That's actually our number five. But then he had like ripped off like 6 to 7 quality starts like consecutively. And you're like, okay, maybe he found something. Maybe he is good and we're a little too harsh on him. And then he went back to being awful again. So it's weird, right? And you watch him pitch, and like it happened in the last game he pitched before the All-Star break too. He got hammered on two pitches that were like nowhere close to the zone because his pitches are so easy to track. It's weird. Like even when he throws off speed curveballs in the dirt and they still hit it hard. It doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
Like location wise, for people to hit him the way he does. But I guess something about the spin, or something about his something, or his arm release, or something makes it easy for hitters to track, and they just crush him. And he got away with it for a little bit during that stretch, and you could tell because he can hit 94, 95, but he doesn't have like any sort of like devastating like stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's you just kind of hope and pray he can bleed his way through 5, 6 innings and get a quality start. And the defense plays really good behind him, but that hasn't been the case lately. For that good stretch in the middle of the season that did help carry us, I'll give him a C.
Alrighty. Moving on to the current number three, because Matt's is in our IL chat and whatnot. I
Matt's is
have,
hurt. What?
I know, right? I have Lynn at this spot, and I mean, I was already high on him, so I might not have him ranked as high as others for his midseason grade, but ultimately I have Lynn with a solid B on the year. He's done everything I've needed him to. Obviously, a lot of people want to talk about his weight, but like CC was able to do it for years. David Ortiz can play this game for years. You don't have to be like in super duper shape, but like, you know, he's eating these innings and, doing a good darn job for us ultimately. So, yeah.
Lynn's kind of a tough one for me to rank personally, just because he he was supposed to be our 4-5, and now he's kind of become our 2-3, but now he's kind of our 4-5 again. And it's kind of like this weird thing where like he pitches one game and he's good, and he pitches the next game and he's awful. So like
But we knew
I'll go
that's
his
what
last,
we're getting from Lynn.
yeah, like his last 5 games, 5.1, 5 earned runs, terrible. And then he comes and he does 6 and 2/3, 1 earned run, 6 scoreless, and then 2.2, 10 earned runs, and then back to 6 and 2 earned runs. And he doesn't, I don't get it. He's another guy that's just super prone to giving up the long ball. He's eaten the innings. He's done that, which is what he was supposed to do. But at the same time, if Miles isn't pitching well and Matz is on the IL, you kind of need him to be better than what you expected to tread water until we figure out this rotation, right? Um, he's slightly better than I thought he would be. He's definitely given us the innings we needed, especially to help save that bullpen, which has really been like our saving grace this season. So I'll give him a C. I know I'm giving everyone a C. It's not a cop out. It's just kind of how I feel because he's good for a game and he's just god awful the next. So it's weird. I'll give him a C.
All right. Moving on to Gibby. Technically signed as our five on the year, and I mean, he's already over 100 pitches. He was one of the only guys to go six for the first few games, out of all starters in the league. So like, I have him here as well as a solid B. Again, I mean, yeah, his ERA is slightly over 4, but he's got just short of a 1 WAR, and again, his whip, like he's only got 1.357 whip, so like he isn't really letting too many guys get on base ultimately each inning.
I mean, I'm kind of floating between an A and a B with him, to be honest, because I thought he would be our worst pitcher because he did give up all those hits last season. But he keeps us in pretty much, aside from one or two. I'm looking at it right now. He 2 earned runs, 7 earned runs. That Miami game was really the worst one as the second start of the season. Four,
Yeah.
1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 5, 0, 1, 3, 3, 0, 4, 4, 3, 4. He keeps us in game. There's only been one game he pitched us out of, and it was the second start of the season. Um, and he is a quality start machine, right? He's been, I think, significantly better than what I expected him to be. I was not a fan of this signing. Well, not a fan of the signing of him and Lynn at the same time. They kind of miss, but whatever. Um, yeah, his ERA isn't anything to like get excited about. It's slightly over 4, but he's also 7-3, and he's been a positive pitcher on the season. Like I said, he gives us the innings. He's already over 100 innings. He's on pace for close to 200 innings as our number 3, 4, 5, whatever you want to call him. Yeah, I'll give him an A.
Yeah, the thing that worries me though, and thankfully this All-Star break just came, but like his last 4 games, he hasn't made it past the fifth inning.
Yeah,
So,
that's definitely a real concern. But
I
at the
mean, he
same
was
time,
still
at least
pitching
they've only
well.
given up 10-2 like Lynn
No,
did.
yeah, very true. But yeah. All right, so moving on to the man who seems to have taken over that final starting spot now that Mats has officially, you know, been put on our IL roster spot. So we have Palente there, and I have him as a B plus on the year. There was a lot of people questioning giving him opportunities in this spot again, and he's had a few hiccups as is expected, but he's really solidified a spot that we had, and he's allowing it to make others a little more expendable right now, which allowed Matt's to be moved to the pen, Libby to be moved to the pen, because we both know how much we hated Libby keeping getting moved to the spot starts and whatnot. So, like, he has provided a little solidification to, a lot of these questions. So, props to him. I can't give him a full A just because, again, there have been those hiccups and whatnot, but like, um, good year for him so far coming in.
I mean, yeah, I'll give him B plus. This is my first plus ranking. Everything else has been like a solid letter. I'll give him a B plus. Again, relative to expectations, he was sent down because he struggled mightily, especially last season. He got lit up last year, and he worked on his pitches. He like I don't know how much he's actually used his Vulcan, but he's like worked on like the sinker cutter a little bit more. I mean, let's just go like through his last few starts. 5.1, 5 earned runs. That was the bad one. But then 5.10, 7 innings, 1 earned run. 6.1, 4 earned runs. Like as our like spot start fifth guy, we seem to have a lot of five starters, right? He's been better than expected, and he's really, really saved this bullpen and this rotation in times of desperation. So I'll give him a B plus.
Alrighty, perfect. So let's move on to the pen now. I'm gonna go ahead and start off with uh ugh, Geo. Geo, man. I had a
Oh,
lot of high hopes for him, but he just can't put it together right now. I have him as a D on the year, one of my few failing grades on the year.
I feel bad because I like Gio and I like all he's done for us, but I have to give him an F. His ERA is over 7 and almost 20 innings. This is a guy that was consistently one of the better relievers in baseball for a long stretch and a
Mhm.
position that's very fickle. And not just for the Cardinals, across all of baseball. And he was really good for like 5, 6 years. So the fall off hurts, but he should not ever, ever, ever pitch in any game that's even remotely competitive. Um, he should not. He's not a major league pitcher anymore. It's sad to say. That's all I got on him. I don't want to harp on him too much because I like Gio.
You sure you don't want to harp more on that?
No, I'm just gonna leave it there. That's it. Gio, I appreciate you and I love all you've done for the Cardinals, but it's time. Sorry.
Oh, Geo, man. It's unfortunate.
It really is.
Ugh, alrighty then.
This is the guy that's given up. Okay, last thing. He's given up 6 home runs in 17 innings. That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So much. Okay, I'm done.
All right. You sure?
Yes.
Got more?
No, that's it.
Uh, alrighty then. Let's see here. Who we got next? Ah, Mr. Roycroft. I'll let you go with Roycroft first.
Oh man, this is another one I'm conflicted on because you've heard me talk about Roy Croft. I'm like, man, but his sinker cutter or his sinker four seam combo is so good. It's so good, and it is. But then like he won't cover first base. And you're like, what are you doing, man? Just cover the bag. Uh, he induces lots of weak contact, and it seems to always find a hole, or he won't cover the bag. Um, this is a guy whose stats should be better than what they are. He's got the stuff. He just does not seem to have the mental makeup yet, or at least consistently. But he's still been good. He's still been good as a reliever. I mean, he's sitting at a what, 22 innings, and he's sitting at a 3.63. And you know, with relievers, all it takes is one bad inning for your ERA to blow up. Um,
Yeah.
I'll give him a C. I'll give him a C because he's got the stuff. You would like to see a little more consistency, a little bit of that soft contact not become hits and cover the bag, dude. Just cover first. If it's hit towards first or if it's hit towards you or in between you and first, run to first. Like that's it. He's done it twice this year. So like I can't defend that, bro. Like just cover the bag. What do you think
Uh,
of him?
I have him as a C minus on the year, ultimately. Um, there's just been he has a lot of good stuff, but he just hasn't gotten it together as much as I had been hoping that he would have. So I really can't, grade him much higher than that at this point. Um, you know, and thankfully he's got
He's one of
that
these guys
sub.
where,
Sorry, what was that?
oh, I said, I'm sorry. He's one of those guys I could see someone give him a B, a C, or a D, and all would make sense. So it's just weird. It's a
I mean,
weird
I
guy.
see a lot of potential and I think he can turn it around, but like as far as for his midseason grade, I gotta give him a C minus for now.
It's fair.
So, yep. Um, let's go with one that this could be fun. Libby. What do you
I'll
have
let you.
Libby
I'll let you
graded
lead this
as?
time. I
Huh?
want you to lead this one. I'm still thinking about it. I'm going back and forth with him.
A lot of Libby's issues this year have not been his own doing, ultimately. So I'm choosing to focus on when he has been out there, what he's been able to do, what he's tried to do. And it also seems like he's gotten a better hang of stuff over his last few games. Even the ones where he's had to come in and like do extended endings and whatnot. I actually have Libby as a B minus on the season. Because he does have obviously, a higher ERA right now with the 4.15 ERA, but I mean, he's already pitched 52 innings on the year for us because he's had to do that starter role. And we've discussed this before, but it wasn't, in the plan to have him be a starter this year. So he hasn't been properly stretched out. And yeah, I mean, other than that, he's been come in, he's given us another lefty option out of the pen, which is nice. Um, but yeah, can't really have him much higher, in my opinion, but couldn't put him any lower either because of the positives he has brought out of the pen for us.
So this is a funny one for me because you've heard me do my Libby rants. I don't know how many times, where you have to listen to it all the time. I'm not going to go on a rant because everything that could be said about Libby, I've probably already said or thought. So, uh, if you were to grade him as a starter, you'd probably have to give him a D. And if you were to grade him as a reliever, he'd probably be a B. So I'll just split the difference and give him a C.
All
And
right.
that's like you said, it's not his fault. It's one of those weird things like you're a starter and now you're a reliever, and then the next week you're a starter again, and now you're a reliever again. And I go back and forth and over again. And like succeeds as a reliever, and they're like, all right, we're gonna pull you and we're gonna make you start, and you're gonna stink. So we'll throw you back in the pen again because you couldn't start, but we need a starter again because we don't have a fifth option. So you might as well start again. Oh man, it didn't work out. I guess we could throw you back in the bullpen. I'm done. That's it. And that's exactly how it's gone. So it's just whatever. See.
Moving on to one of the guys that I feel has been arguably one of like the biggest X factors and like real steals for us this year, Mr. 40 Man Hernandez. Now, for those that don't know, we got Hernandez off of the Rule 5 draft. And so the way that works is for those guys that have been on rosters and haven't had much luck with getting out of the minors and sticking with a team, after a certain point of time, they get a chance to be part of the Rule 5 draft. And the team that picks them, the caveat is they have to keep them on the 40 man for the entire season. If at any point they let them go, they revert back to the other team. We got Fernandez from the Dodgers, and boy, are they probably regretting that right now. Um, he has been great in a long setup role for us. I have him as a solid A. I'm sure you're going to get into all the stats being our data guy, so I'll let you have at it.
Yeah, I mean Fernandez has been like he's been something like the steal of the off season, I guess, for us, or whatever you want to call it, as far as the reliever is concerned, especially with Middleton being out, who we'll touch on later. But here's a fun one. So he's got more innings pitched than Halsey, 1 1/3 inning more innings pitched, and only he's given up one more hit. He's given up one less earned run. His FIP is only slightly higher. His WHIP is actually lower. His hits per nine is identical to Helsley's, and his home run per nine is also identical to Helsley's. Just to kind of give you, and we all know how good Helsley's been this year. Just to kind of give you an idea of how dominant Ryan Fernandez has been for us. He's a revelation, really. It's the right word for it. 43 innings pitched, ERA plus. So that's kind of like OPS plus. It's relative to the rest of the league. He's got a 202 ERA plus.
202.
That is also better than Brian Helsley's, which is crazy to think, right? Um, 43 strikeouts and 43 innings. He's only given up 17 walks in that time, 2 home runs. Again, same as he's essentially been Ryan Helsley, but not named Ryan Helsley, and not obviously not getting the saves. Um, but yeah, he's been incredible. A plus. Like you can't really give him anything but that. Again, like if you're gonna go by like relative to expectations, like I've been saying this whole time, this guy's been arguably our second best reliever. And if he was like pitching in the ninth, you would say he's our best, but he doesn't. So I'm hoping with the second half coming up, you'll see him more in those high leverage situations because he seems to always get the key out or the key strikeout when you need it. He's been incredible. A plus.
Yeah, he's just more of our long inning type relief guy. We tend to use him for more than an inning every time he goes out. It's very rare for him to just pitch to three guys and whatnot. So I do like having him because he provides that stability, especially in games when they're starting to seem like they're getting away. Like I feel comfortable when we have him in there and whatnot, you know?
Absolutely. And they looked at the 3 game series, and then like JoJo and Kit have gone the first two. You do not feel bad not having them if you have Fernandez in the game at all.
Nope.
Um, he's been phenomenal. So
Let's bring up another guy that we brought on in King. I have him as an A minus on this season. He's just been another one of those guys that's done really well for us. Sub 2.5 ERA, 37 innings pitched already on the season, as you were mentioning before, with like the ERA plus. His is 173, so another solid addition that we've made to this team and whatnot.
absolutely. And as a lefty too, right? And we've talked about how like the Libertor's been kind of dicked around all year, going from starter to reliever to starter to reliever. And he's really been like our key left. Like him and Romero have been like, I mean, as about as good as he can get lefty relievers to be in the game today. I agree. Like we talked about it, like the MVP of the first half of the season is definitely our bullpen.
Yeah.
I would give him A as well. And
Well,
he
and,
touched on
and
the reasons also. Like the 173 ERA plus is phenomenal out of the pen. All it takes is one really bad inning to blow that stat up, and it hasn't really happened yet.
mhm.
So
Well, and I mean that's one of those secret like people knock Mo for a lot of his trades, but man, like this is another one of those guys that he just secretly gets and they just do well here. I mean, last year in the 20 games that he pitched for us, he had a 1.45 ERA in 20 games, and this year he's at 33 games pitched in and he's at 2.43. I mean, what a solid piece for a guy that we were going to be losing at the end of the year anyways, you know?
yeah, I mean, and you look at our record, like with our offense has been like it's been better lately, but as inconsistent and as bad as it was, at least for the first couple months of the season. And with our starters, aside from Sonny and kind of Kyle Gibson being very, very shaky most of the year, you wonder how the heck are we above 500 with a negative run differential? It's the bullpen. It's guys like King and it's guys like Fernandez. Like you said, those sneaky good pickups who just excelled, and no one really knows who they were or where they existed or where they came from. But it's been cool to see. Like you hope that it doesn't come to like Kittredge and JoJo losing those spots because that means they would continue like kind of faltering. But worst case scenario, you have those guys to back them up if it does. So like you feel pretty good about like the top 5 guys in their pen, which a lot of teams can't say.
They're just looking at King's numbers. He had a 309 ERA plus last year with us. What the hell is that? I've never really
Yeah, it
seen a
doesn't make sense,
300
right?
ERA
Like,
plus.
who the heck is John King? Like, I've never even heard of him.
Dude, this was a man that had a 5.7 ERA halfway through last year with Texas. Comes here, cuts that by a third.
It's a
I,
Dusty Blake
I I don't know if it's
renaissance, right?
Bloom
I
or
don't know.
Flores or Mo, but like, man, like between him and Fernandez, man, like we stocked up on some good pitchers in the last year and that's oh, you gotta love it, man. Especially with
I
where
mean,
this
if their
team
starters
was
were half
last
as good
year.
as relievers,
It sucks to have a losing season, especially coming as Cardinals fans where we're used to like competing in that. So, it's nice to see us stocked up. But anyways, before we go on more tangents, let's hop back and let's knock up our other setup man. We're gonna go with Kittredge here. What do you have Kit as on the year?
I'm giving him a B. I would have given him an A if it weren't for like I don't know, early-ish, mid-ish June till now, where he's struggled, uh, to say the least. But I'll give him a B because he's him and okay, I'm not going to spoil the next guy, but he's like at the top of the league and holds still, so he can't knock him too much. But he has struggled lately, and that's the only reason I'm giving him a B.
Makes total sense. I mean, I got him as the same. Can't really say much more for that. Let's move on to Mr. Mojo Jojo. Uh, I mean, I have him as another one of our A's on the year. What is he? One of the tops it holds too, along
Yeah,
with
him and Kittredge are like 1 and 2 in holds in the NL at least. I had to double check, but yeah,
Sub 2.5 ERA over his 40 innings pitched, 172 ERA plus. I mean, I love JoJo. Not only is his name fun to say, because I always think of Mojo Jojo, but like you love the passion too. You always see him getting fired up on the mound. Like he's a fun guy to have on the team. And yeah, I'm giving him an A for my midseason grade.
he is funny too. He's another sneak. He's part of the Edmundo Sosa deal, but this is
Hmm.
his what, sixth year in the league, fifth year in the league. So you look at 2020, 10.2 innings pitched, 61 ERA plus. 2021, he had 9 innings pitched, 62 ERA plus. 2022, Philadelphia still. He had a 35 ERA plus with the Phillies. We flipped for him, Sosa, and he has a 106 ERA plus with us. Last season he's 120, and this season he's 172. Make it make sense. I don't get it. This is like a fringe major leaguer on the Phillies who then comes over here and should have probably been an all-star as a lefty reliever. Just been outside, like kind of similar kid. He struggled a little bit near the end towards the all-star break, but you're hoping that rest will kind of rejuvenate him for the second half. But I mean, he's what you want in a lefty reliever, right?
It's funny how many
Crazy.
people knock our player development, but when you like, yeah, with hitters we struggle, as do, quite a few teams. But when you look at pitching, we have a really good track record of just taking middle of the road to not so great guys and making them good. Heck, even look at Monty. Monty was what, the fourth, fifth guy in New York? We have
Yeah.
him switch up how he's using his pitches, focusing more on his fastball and whatnot, and suddenly he's, you know, vying for, or believes he's a Cy Young guy and deserving of that pay. So
And then the Diamondbacks sign him and he's awful again. So
it's fun. I don't know how we
it's
do
weird.
it. But all right, last but not least in the pen, our closer, Mr. Helsley. I don't know how you give him any grade other than an A plus.
For me, it'd be an S. So, but
Yeah.
not a boom.
All right, that's fair. Okay. Don't show me up. Touche.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I just like the S tier. Um, he blew the first save of the season, and you're like, oh no, is this the same guy that blew the save in the playoffs? No, he rattled off what, 31 straight saves, 32,
30 or
31,
31,
32.
something like that.
And then he blew a save due to the Manfred rule with the ghost runner, but got the win. And like he pitched well. He gave up 0 earned runs and blew a save. Um, and then he rattled off a couple more before the All-Star break. He's leading the league in saves. He's on pace to set a franchise record for the season. He's striking out everyone. He makes them interesting for sure. He'll raise your heart rate. But he gets the job done. He does what you're supposed to do as a closer, and he closes the game. And he does it more than anyone else in baseball right now. So he has to be an S.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, not much more to add to it. That 178 ERA plus is one of the tops on the team. Like our pen is just incredible when you're looking at it. And yeah, a good reason, as you mentioned before, why we are in the position where we are, where we're in a playoff spot and, not flipped at sub 500. So
Could
yeah,
be very easy with the negative run differential, as we mentioned. So
yeah. Well, let's move on to our injured list guys and the guys that are down in the minors as well. Obviously, this isn't going to cover all of them, but just the more major ones. So, uh, let's go ahead and talk about Mr. Edmond. Um, really thought he was going to play a big role in this year, as he has most years. Obviously, really dealing with his health issues. So unfortunately, I have to give him an F just because he's been non-existent. So, I mean, obviously that's, a liability. Hopefully he'll get well soon. He'll be able to join the club and contribute. But yeah, as of right now, you know, he's the kid that showed up and hasn't put anything on the test. So he's getting a zero. Great for me.
yeah, I mean, I don't know how you look like even when he becomes healthy now too. I don't see how you look at him as anything other than a utility player because he doesn't hit well enough to overtake Siani's defense and center, and he's not gonna play second where Gorman is, and he's not gonna play short where Win is. It's you're looking at a utility player now, and this is okay. Not to pat myself on the back or toot my own horn, but this is a guy that we should have traded 2 years ago, and he had 6 WAR, and everyone wanted a player like him. It's unfortunate because he is valuable. He's got the plus defense. He can't really hit or get on base, but he's got the plus speed too. And he's a good player overall. Like if you look at the whole package of what Tommy Edman is, but you came into the season, like you said, expecting him to play, and then you have this like really weird, like all of a sudden he's injured, and he was
Hmm.
injured the whole time. We just didn't tell you, and he just had surgery, by the way, and we don't know when he'll be back. And then we're gonna be really hush about it for like a month, and everyone's gonna be like, "Where's Tommy Edman?" And you hear no updates, and it's just the whole thing is strange. Uh, yeah, I mean, I don't like giving players an F for not playing, but like you have to give him an F because like now like you're looking at him as an expendable piece because of the people who have overtaken him while he's gone.
Yeah,
Um, so it is what it is.
it
And I
is.
like Tommy Edmond. This Tommy Edmond slander is just the reality of the situation.
No, you're right. Let's go with everybody's favorite injured guy, Mr. Matz. I mean, another guy that really hasn't seen the field at all. I have him as a D minus on the year. I'm hoping that when he gets back, we can throw him out into the pen and everything. But yeah, I mean, really
He's an
another
F
guy with
for me.
nothing to
Yeah.
show on the year.
For me, he's an F. He's been injured almost the whole season, and when he did pitch, the little bit he did pitch, he pitched for over in a 6 ERA. Was negative WAR like a couple other pitchers we have. Um, but we paid all this money for him to be like our number two, number three. And like I said, relative to expectations, right? Like his job was to be our like lefty starter in the middle of our rotation. And he can't even do that. He doesn't give you innings. He doesn't give you good innings when he doesn't give you anything. Like it's an F.
Alrighty, not much to talk about with a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
Mainly just grades. Another guy that we thought was actually going to contribute quite a bit is Middleton.
Oh, is
Um,
that backwards?
hmm?
F. F. I don't know
F.
what way you see it on the screen. F.
No, yeah, you're right.
Right.
There isn't
He's
any other.
supposed to be a key piece to the bullpen. He was supposed to be like our second most reliable guy after Housley, and he hasn't
Yeah.
pitched. It's wasted money.
All right.
It's a good thing
What?
Fernandez worked out, right?
Yeah, right. Moving on. Initially didn't cover this guy, but figure he's worth a little bit just because he did end up playing in almost 20 games for us. Leahy. Um, I have him as a C plus. Could see him being a B minus, but I mean, you know, called up, didn't do awful, didn't do great, but had some moments there with us, where he definitely came and helped out and whatnot, including in a few of the Miami games as well when bullpen was pretty taxed already.
Yeah, that's fair. He just kind of filled in when we really needed innings, and I mean that's kind of all he could do. He is okay. He was average in
Yeah.
those innings, but not anything great, not anything bad. His ERA plus is right at 101, so literally league average pitcher.
Hmm.
For me, so I'll give him a C. I think that's fair. And 30 innings of work, that helped us. I mean, that did help. I'm not going to knock him
Hmm.
for like not being a major league pitcher and coming in and not being a major league pitcher. So I'll give him a
No,
C.
fair is fair. Let's move on over to Herrera. Uh, this has been an interesting one as I was going through it, but ultimately I had to knock him to a C plus overall. The real thing that knocked him down, pretty much a full letter grade from like a B plus to the C plus has been his issues with the base runners. Everybody in the league literally knows right now that if Herrera is behind the plate, you can pretty much run on him at will. And that could easily and arguably have led to several losses during times where he was behind the plate because, people were literally just taking second and sometimes even third on him. And if you can't gun down guys at third, like, I'm sorry. Like, you really got to work on your mechanics at that point because I mean, we've taken a look at the numbers. Clearly it isn't the actual like speed on his throws. So it's obviously a mechanics issue with getting the ball out, getting his jump and the release quick. So he's got
Yeah,
to
still a
work on
transfer
that.
release. You're right.
Because, I mean, other than that, like he's been real solid. Like he's a guy that you want in the lineup. But outside of DH, you can't have him there because he's giving up more runs behind the plate than he is. And as we talked about with Pajas coming up and really solidifying that catcher spot, he's kind of an odd man out, and that's why he's down in the minors right now. But like, you hope he can get it figured out because he's got that 104 OPS plus, 718 slugging. Like, he's one of the better, you know, on base hitters on this team. 340 on base percentage. He's pretty much getting on base at least once a game and
And that's
whatnot.
with the inconsistent playing time too, right? Like, and we both
Hmm.
played baseball, the game of like rhythm and timing, and to be able to be successful with inconsistent plate appearances still, um, it it's impressive. His bat's real. It's like you said, I don't want to just call it the defense. It's because he's got a decent enough arm. It's the transfer and the exchange and the pop time that's an issue, and hopefully because his bat's good. Like you said, like hopefully he can get that figured out. Uh, I mean, I'll give him a D. Just I don't know. D's a bit harsh. I'll give him a C. He's, his
I was
bat's like
gonna
a
say he's
B,
not
and his
that
defense is
off.
like a D. Yeah, because I was just thinking of all the stolen bases. I'm so many stolen bases against them. I was just like thinking about it. Like he doesn't throw anyone out at all. I think he's thrown
Hmm.
out one or two people on the year. Um, yeah, I'll give him a C.
Like I said,
Seems
that's
fair.
why he literally dropped a full letter grade for me. When I was doing him off of his offense, I'm like, okay, B plus, all these numbers, helping out the team. And then it's like, oh, but all those runners, it's like, ooh, how many runs did he let get in? How many guys moved into scoring position just because he was there? And it's like, yeah. Um, Obviously, you could
It's tough.
arguably
Yeah.
knock him down a little further for that because that's a huge part of being a catcher, especially for a franchise that's had Yachty behind the plate for basically 2 decades. This should not be allowed to happen. And thankfully, again, Pajes has come in and he's done a good job of shutting that down. But yeah, hopefully Herrera can get that fixed in the minors. Moving on, though, looking at Victor Scott 2. I have him as a C minus on the season. Came in, was doing well, but was having some pretty awful jumps in the outfield, and the bat just wasn't working either. But again, he was never supposed to be up this year. All those injuries that happen force the kid to be in that spot. So I really can't drop him to like a D or an F. I don't think that's fair to him, but obviously showed him that he's got a lot to work on and a lot to improve if he wants to have a career at the major league level. But boy, does he have speed. He was getting shitty jumps, but he was making up for everything you know, unlike Siani, where like he has to get those perfect jumps, otherwise he's not making that play. Scott was able to, run around in a circle and then he could go find the ball, still catch it. So, you know, would love to see him on the roster in the next year or two. But right now needs a bit more seasoning down in AAA.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be harsh, but I'm gonna give him the D. It's
Oh, you're gonna give him
he,
the D.
he
Watch
I'm
out,
gonna give
everybody.
he, oh, don't say it that way. Jesus. Let's cut that, editor, Mr. Editor. No, you can see me run my head. I feel bad about it, but like he was so bad. He was so bad. You were kind of hoping like he would seize this opportunity when he got it because you're right. It was injuries. Like we had the weird Edmund situation, which we already discussed, and then Dylan Carlson collided with Walker, I think, in like the last week of spring training, and that put him out. So they called up Scott and they said, all right, well, I guess we don't have any more outfielders. Siani at the time was like an unknown. Um, so they gave him the chance and he didn't make anything of it. And he kind of wish he had, right? Because this is a guy that stole over 100 bases in the minors the year before and was like
Mhm.
he just made the top 100 as a prospect. And he's at the beginning of the season, he had a lot of talk about his name, like how he could be like a game changing base stealer and defender. And like even if he was just an average to like slightly below average hitter, overall, he would be a good player and a help to the team. But like when you have a -7 war or -0.7 war and a negative OPS plus, which by the way, 100 is league average. So he's in the negatives. Um, it's tough to like say like you're even average at that point because you're not. Um, my expectations were to at least kind of get on base a little bit and steal some backs, but he couldn't get on base to do it. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at with him. And like I said, he's still super young. And this isn't supposed to be like, oh, I don't like Victor Scott anymore. He was not ready for the majors. It was clear. Like he wasn't supposed to be up.
Yeah.
But Reese forced him to be there. So like seize the moment, right? And kind of take advantage of the opportunity you're given. And he didn't do it. And it stinks.
It does, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah. So he knows what he needs to work on too, though. Like Mason Wynn had his cup of tea last season, and he really stunk in that. And he had the entire offseason to work on what he needed to work on. And we're seeing the dividends for that this year now. So hopefully Victor Scott will kind of take that same approach in the minors right now. So next chance he gets, he'll thrive.
Gotta hope so, right?
Yep. because this is the guy I still think is going to be part of the future of the team. Um, I There's a lot of potential there.
Alrighty then. So,
Most
let's,
polarizing players coming up, right?
yeah, you know where we're going with this one.
Yeah.
Jordan Walker. I hate to do it because I am super confident in this kid's future and how he's going to turn out. But the focus of this is mid-season grades compared to what we thought they were going to be and their position. I have to give him an F, ultimately.
Man, that's rough. Hey, I can't blame you either. And again, another negative war play. And like I said, limited playing time, 41 OPS plus, zero home runs. It took him till what, the end of June to finally hit a home run between the majors and the minors.
Yeah,
And people wanted to, oh, the Cards ruined him. No, the Cards are doing the right thing. Him hitting 110 mile per hour grounders all over the infield, and it can help anyone. He needs to hit line drives. The Cardinals were not trying to force him to loft the ball to be just a power hitter. They just wanted him to hit line drives. That's all they really want. And if he consistently does that, he's got so much power, the home runs will come naturally. They're not worried about him lifting the ball. They just want him to stop hitting it on the ground, which is fair because you look at it and he smashes the ball into the ground.
yeah.
It's unfortunate. Um,
And
yeah,
I'm
it probably too. So
and here's the thing, like any other team, if they had him up here and they had the situation that we do where you have a crowded outfield that is technically producing for the most part, with Donnie, Siani, and Burley, like he needs to get
and
this
Newton,
fixed. And new, but he needs to fix this because again, that is a fundamental problem and it's a bad habit. And th he's one of those guys that with his natural size and his talent, which he has a lot of, and his baseball IQ, he hasn't really had to be coached much. He hasn't had to make many adjustments over the years because he's always been one of the best guys out there, even through the minors. It's why he sped through the minor league system. The kid is just naturally talented, but when that happens, it can be harder to make some adjustments. Thankfully, again, he's still very young. I have the utmost confidence. Everybody talks about what a great baseball IQ is. I think he's just a little in his head too much. And I mean, if I could be in his ear, I would just tell him to take a deep breath, calm down. You're a young kid. You're gonna figure this out. Just focus during your practices and on the tees and whatnot in the cages on getting the loft. But when you're out there, just focus on seeing the ball and hitting it where it's going. He's getting too much in his head at the plate, and you can tell he feels uncomfortable, but you know, he's gonna get this. He's too young. He's not gonna be ruined. And heaven forbid if this ruins him, it just speaks to the fact that he wasn't meant for it. But again, I want to preface, I do not think that is the case. But for prospects that can't make the adjustments, they were never gonna make it to begin with, if that was the case, ultimately.
yeah, and here's the thing too, and I think you hit the nail on the head. He's still young enough where he can work on this now. It's better to do it now than later, right? Like you don't want to have a guy who's in the majors for a few years and now you want to fundamentally change his swing and approach. And
Hmm.
I don't even think they're trying to do that so much as opposed to just tweak it a little bit. Just change the bat path just a smidge so you're not constantly pounding the ball into the dirt
He
because they
he's
want to
going he's
unlock that.
going down a lot, and so he's hitting the ball right on top instead of actually getting his hands down and then coming underneath. Obviously, I'm not standing up, so it looks a little fucking weird, but like you can see it when you watch his swing in slow motion.
Yeah, it
He
chops at it.
and and it's not a major adjustment, as you said. It really isn't a major adjustment. But yeah, when you're in your head in this game, it's a mental thing, and now he's got that mental block. But he's got time, so he's just got to relax. I think he's putting as much pressure on himself as anybody, obviously, too, because he probably prides himself in his game. But this is just one of those things that he's got to take a step back, and hopefully he's got some vets in his ear being like, "Hey, this happens. You'll get it figured out, you know?" That's where one
And
of
this is,
the issues with
yeah.
him being away from the big club, I think, does hurt him, but it is right to have him in the minors working on it because he can get consistent games, consistent bats. He can see 3 to 4 at bats a night and actually work on this stuff. Whereas if he's up here, there's no way he's getting playing time outside of resting and spilling somebody. And even that, he's got to compete with Newt and Edmund when he comes back, you know?
And ultimately, I think the Cardinals are like they're getting a lot of criticism for the way they handled Walker, but I ultimately think this is the right decision too, because you what do you're so talented and he got so much potential. You want to make the most out of it. You don't want a guy who's just going to be only half as good as he possibly could be, if that. So this is the right decision, especially with the outfield producing the way it has. And we talked about Burley like taking this out, like taking this opportunity that he was given by Walker not panning out to really kind of solidify himself as a future core piece of this team. Um, so he's got the time. Like he's still only 22, and the best thing that somebody can tell him is just, hey, relax. Like
Yeah.
you have the talent, you can do it. You've done it for so long. Relax. Like that's it. And he'll figure it out. I believe he'll figure it out as well.
And ate some meat,
But if we're
young
compared
man.
to the
You were
grade
too
based on
skinny.
expectation, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Somebody needs
We're
to
being
take him
fair
to
based on
some St.
expectation.
Louis barbecue for the next 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, still 22. He'll be fine. He'll be
Yeah.
fine. It's a harsh grade, but based on relative expectation, what we saw from him last year, you expect him to be a little bit better this year. Kind of like how we talked about Gorman earlier, and he took a big step back. So he's still young enough. He can figure this out. I think the Cardinals are doing the right thing. They're trying to unlock the most out of him, which any team should do. And I think that's what's going to happen eventually. Might take a little bit longer than expected, but again, it's not like we're struggling right now in the outfield. He's got time.
Yeah. Well, that wraps it up for a very long mid-season grading episode. Thank you all for sticking with us. If you made it this long, bravo to you. You deserve a pat on the back because we did not. But we will see you all next time. We have a special episode coming up next week, so stay tuned for that. We're going to be discussing some prospects with some fun guys that you may recognize and have seen on here with us before. And then we're also going to be producing a little bit of trade deadline talk as well. So be on the lookout for that. Any things you want to touch on before we let these fine folks go tonight, RJ?
Not really. Don't criticize us too much in the comments. We tried our best. It's a lot
Wonderful.
of players.
It is a lot of players. Yeah, and obviously we missed a few people, but we tried to focus on the ones that, you know, gave the most time up here with the club and we can actually give a real grade for, not the guys that were up for a game or two and really didn't affect anything.
Yeah,
But
sorry,
yeah,
Gordon Graceffa. Yeah,
yeah,
but game.
he's literally who I had in mind. But yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks again for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you all next time. Have a good one.